I think it's difficult right now for a lot of people because I think a lot of people are unemployed and they don't know what to do. And, if they're online, they see all these crazy, ridiculous gains that people post on Reddit or YouTube or whatever about how much money they made, for example, on Robinhood or some other or trading app. Like, are you using any of those apps? Do you use Robinhood? Do you use Webull?
No,
No?
all of it's silly. But look, at the end of the day, I told you it doesn't matter. First of all, your core information is completely thrown out the window when you look at stuff like that. Who's going to post on Reddit? Do people post on Reddit and say, "Oh shit, I lost all my money today"? No,
You
they
haven't
don't
bet
post.
Wall Street bets.
They don't do that. They only
They
post.
do.
They don't. Okay,
They
fine.
do, and it's hilarious.
Okay,
but
fine. Let's just say they do, but you have to. Then you have to look more at those, right? Like then I would say only look at those, because then you can say, okay, this is what stupid people do. They put all their money in one thing with no research, without any understanding, and they lose all their money. So then I would say, okay, what you should learn is don't do that, right?
Yeah.
If you start looking at people saying, oh, I bought whatever company and I made 1,000%, it's like, okay, so what? Like maybe they just made $10 into $1,000. Like that's not changing your world, right? Those people, if they're unemployed and they got nothing to do, they got to be upgrading themselves, getting better skills. Like I said, any job is going to be, if you have no retirement savings at all, any job is going to be much better for you than trying to invest. Investing is great long term because it compounds over time, but it's not something that's going to help you pay the bills tomorrow. A job's going to help you pay the bills tomorrow because you get a regular paycheck, and then you can save up so that you can, have a retirement where you can't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, whether it be Robinhood or whatever other app, it doesn't really matter. Like, these people are all trying to do the classic thing of get rich quick, and that just doesn't happen. I mean, yes, it happens for some people, but for the vast majority,
of people, yeah.
it's not going to happen. And you can't think that you're special. That I'm going to be in that top 1% where I'm going to make $1 million. Like, that's a fool's errand.
Yeah, because it's not like, outside of the Fed, it's not like money just comes from nowhere. For every one person that makes a tremendous gain on some random ticker, many other people lost money to contribute to that massive gain.
I mean, that's complicated. There's it's all sorts of ups and downs. You're kind of, if you made money, maybe you're taking it from someone else, but but like that's not the point. Like we don't even need to think that macro for this kind of stuff. It's very much on an individual basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's very logical and mathy. Like that's kind of what I like about investing. Or what's kind of really crazy about it. It's like you read Buffett or other people, and it's just like they're just describing a logical mathematical process, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
They add on their own information. They're definitely very smart about a lot of things, but in general, it's just like they're trying to not be stupid and make mistakes. If they lose money, it's much harder to get it back, and if they don't have money, then they can't make more money. And so, the first step is just to have some money. And if you're unemployed and you got no money because of COVID or whatever, like investing is not your way out. Like you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole. It's not a skill that you're gonna get good at very quickly because it takes time, most likely, and it's most likely what you weren't doing before. So if you were like a programmer before or you were a contractor before, you can get better at whatever skill you did before or learn some new skill, and get some other job, and that job's likely going to be increasing your savings a lot more than any investments are going to be short term, and they'll help you pay the bills. So,
right.
That's I view it as very cut and dry. It's almost so simple it's silly, and I really don't get it. And I went to business school with a lot of people, and people still don't get it. Like everyone's just after making money, and they forget about kind of the basics.
Yeah.
And maybe partially it's like some people are privileged. They never had to worry about the basics, so they don't even think about having the basics. But I think coming from an immigrant family or being around a lot of immigrants and stuff, like you remember, like you gotta have the basics first. First you gotta put food on the table and you gotta eat. Then you gotta get a roof over your head. Like after you got all that stuff and you can ensure that you're gonna have it for a while, then it's like, okay, now I can start planning for the future. right? If you plan for the future now and you starve tomorrow or in like 7 days, like, does it matter?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned business school, and I'm going to have to drag you back to that because, people watching this don't know who you are. So, you went to Rutgers Business School, right? Which is probably one of the best schools in the state for sure, and pretty high up there in the country. Do you feel like you had a good education at Rutgers?
I think I had a good education at Rutgers, but partially it was like just because I like to learn and read a lot of stuff. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I said, I don't want to get into status games. I'm not some
I
fancy.
understand that.
I'm not some fancy guy that went to a fancy school or got a fancy degree. End of the day, it takes hard work to learn and do some trial and error and test your hypotheses. And at least by general public rankings, I guess, then I would say Princeton is the big school for New Jersey, but Rutgers is a great fine state school. I went there to learn a lot as like the first person in my family or generation of immigrants to go to college and graduate. So I thought that was really important to me, like going someplace that was affordable, but had that was close, that was
still good reputation.
Yes, it's still a decent reputation, and had the subjects that I was interested in, which were kind of business, finance, philosophy-ish stuff.
And where did you go after graduating college?
Work. So working at small wealth management firms, working at a big four accounting firm, doing financial advisory and consulting, and then later on Credit Suisse.
What is Credit Suisse?
It's a Swiss bank, but the specifics don't matter. Like I don't even think I'm trying to be private. I just think it's almost irrelevant, like, to anything I'm saying in my history.
Fair.
So,
what did you do? How long did you work there, and what did you do?
5+ years analyzing businesses and investments.
Okay. So
that's
why
better?
I say that you're uniquely qualified to talk about this sort of thing.
No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, the kind of investments I was looking at were private. I mean, yes, kind of, because at the end of the day, I need to look at businesses, but like, I didn't invest their money. I was analyzing how their investments were valued, and like a lot of it was like alternative investment stuff and private equity and hedge funds and all sorts of different kind of assets. So like, it's a little different, but what is similar, I would say, is looking at businesses as a whole. So like, I think it's important when you invest in stocks for the lay person to think about, like, I'm really investing in the company as a whole, and I have a small piece of that business, not like I just have a 3 to 4 digit ticker that jumps up and down and changes price every day, and I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen. So it in that respect is the only thing I would say is really similar to like investing. Most of my investment knowledge and expertise, if you can, let's just call it experience, is just on my own, reading, thinking about it, combining that with things I've learned in school and things I do
in
at
the
work.
field.
Things I see and do at work, but nothing is really all of it. Most of it, in fact, I would say, is not that, and it's reading and watching lots of things from Warren Buffett and his ilk.
Right. So, explain who Warren Buffett is. The Oracle of Omaha.
I don't like names, but he's an old investor that's been successful, I think, with a logical process. And in many ways, he's also, I think, a teacher for others that have tried to.
So he's a student of Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, right?
Yeah, I'm not into like reciting people's histories. People can look it up. We can give them a Wikipedia link. You can check it out right here.
Thanks, John. So what is value investing? It's kind of looking at the underlying fundamentals of any given company and finding a company that is trading at a lower price than what it should be. Is that accurate?
So it's so complicated. So let's get into semantics first of all.
Okay.
Value investing is, I guess, what most people call it. But if you think about it, everyone's trying to value invest, right? Everyone's trying to buy something cheaper than what it's worth. Like, I don't care who you are, right? If you're a venture capitalist, you're trying to get a tech startup, whatever, at less than you think they're worth. So everyone thinks they're value investing. So the name is kind of a fact of history.
Okay.
It's marketing, it's books, and so on. So that's part of it. In terms of what it actually is, yeah, it's looking a bit more at the fundamentals of a company and whether they're undervalued, which is what everyone's trying to do, right? But also, I prefer kind of maybe more the term like long-term investing. So you're investing for the long term, and you're thinking about the fundamentals of a company, like what's their business, what's their business model, like how defensive are they compared to others, how good are their products, what would happen to them in a disaster, those kind of things, and thinking about them, and then the little bit of math about like, okay, how do I value this company, and figure out if it's worth $100 or $10 a share or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's useful. That's not a great description because I'd have to kind of think
it's
about
complicated, which is probably why all of the readily available knowledge out there, readily digestible knowledge out there, is like these sort of short, pithy descriptions.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the whole finance and investment space, I'd say, hasn't really changed in, I don't know, a long time, and so people kind of learn the terms and they just keep using it, but it's kind of like business talk. It's like very buzzwordy, and it's like, well, what does this really mean? And like, does that even make sense as a real name for that? Like, no, not really. And so I could see why, like, it takes a long time for people to, even just understand the basics. It's so difficult. People make so many different names for things, and then you have to combine and compose those things together into like larger concepts, and then you have to have opinions on them, and then all the facts keep changing all the time because new things happen in the world. and that's really tough. It's extremely competitive and tough profession, but that's part of what makes it interesting.